You're watching Nevada Business Chronicles. Take a journey with us to see the innovative businesses that put Nevada on the business map. Connecting you with the businesses, events, and organizations that bring innovation and prosperity to the Nevada area, please welcome your host, Mitch Burney. We're here with Stacie Mathewson, and many of you may recall on a previous episode we introduced Stacie had lost her son a couple of years ago to a drug overdose. And since then she's gone on to found Transforming Youth Recovery, and today has assembled a group of our community members to talk about a new program that she's introducing.
Right. So Transforming Youth Recovery has been, a work of passion and need for our community and also throughout the United States. So what we've done at Transforming Youth Recovery is we've taken a situation that was unfortunate. Obviously, drug overdoses have become a national epidemic because of opiates. So today I have Janine Whistler with me, and Janine had a very unfortunate loss recently, just August of 2015. So it's been about 6 months, Janine?
Yeah, 6 months.
And I would really like to have Janine share her story, and I thank you, Janine, for coming today and sharing your story with us.
Oh, absolutely. Anything I can do to help.
Yeah. Can you just give us an idea of, as a parent, what has just recently happened?
What has recently just happened has been every parent's nightmare. And you never think it's going to happen to you, your family, your child, and to you as a parent. But Edward died of a drug overdose in August, and nobody saw it coming. Yeah, thank you. Nobody saw it coming, and he didn't see it coming. He just was having fun, like he wasn't normal. Not normal. There is no normal to any of this. He wasn't a person addicted to drugs who did them every day. He was more of a recreational drug user, and he took it too far, is what happened. And he didn't mean to, but he did.
So when did you first notice that, he may have, what was his path?
And it's crazy because, all our kids are they're good kids, and they're bright, shiny, sweet people, and he had a million friends, and he was super outgoing and just a great guy, super creative, an amazing athlete. And, it's funny. They start, I think, in high school experimenting with drugs. And so I know he experimented with marijuana and really, actually got hooked on that. And that was always a struggle and a battle with us in the household. And then I know at some point, and you don't know that when it's going on as a parent, you find all this out afterwards. Mm-hmm. But, I think then the group of the kids, were experimenting with pain pills and Vicodins and Percocets and whatnot. And he, fortunately, had got my DNA and couldn't do any of those, thank God, but just because it would make him so sick. Mm-hmm. But I do know, just older siblings of friends and things would introduce things or whatever. And then somewhere along the line, and I think it was probably, I'm thinking, college, who knows, maybe and later in high school, but Xanax rolled into the scene where, you can take Xanax and not get sick, and you can have a beer and pop a Xanax, and it's a pretty fun time. And so, and it's okay to, on a weekend, and that's going to be your little party, supply or whatever. But before you know it, all of a sudden you're addicted to this highly addictive drug, and you need it to fall asleep, and you need it, to do, and your parents have it, and this and that. And so it's, all of a sudden, I think he probably found himself with an addiction to Xanax. And I think that was his big downfall, honestly. I mean, and he struggled, but here's the thing is he did not need, he didn't take Xanax all the time. He would go through spurts where he was totally sober, no drugs at all. He totally stopped smoking marijuana a year before he died, at least. And 4 months from March until June, was completely sober off of it. You know, I think he was 22 years old. So he would go out and drink, you know, beers with his friends and stuff, but no drugs, no nothing. And then, you know, in July, I think he went to some music festivals and kind of fell off the sober wagon,
Yeah.
so to say.
And I'm so sorry for your loss. That was your only child, I know. And
I know. So sorry for your loss as well.
Now, as a parent, we always look back and say, what could have been different? And, you know, do you have any feedback for me on how maybe as a parent or through the school system, things could be different and maybe more awareness or?
Yeah, you know, there are, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. You know, there's a million of them that go through your head when something like this happens. Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. But I think, like, regarding the school system, I think if we hit the kids at a younger age with drug education and how strong and dangerous, especially these pharmaceutical drugs are, because my guess is, and I don't know for sure, but my guess is that is where the pharmaceutical drugs are, you know, the easiest things to get your hands on when you're a kid. And I think that is where it starts, and then it opens the doors because they're, you know, looking for a bigger, better high or whatever it is that they do. But in any case, yeah, if we could start younger with the younger kids, you know, in elementary school, and then also educating the parents, because nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. Nobody does.
Right.
Nobody does.
Yeah. I always say, well, I didn't look at my 5-year-old or 7-year-old and say, well, I think you're going to be a drug addict someday.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think if me as a parent, if I would have had a little more education on drug intervention and prevention with their peers specifically. And a lot of this becomes so peer-driven.
It is so peer-driven.
Because I know parents are at home educating their kids, but when they go to school, what are their peers influencing them to do?
One of my girlfriends from childhood tracked me down on Facebook. She has 2 boys that are 26 and 24. Edward was 22. Who they live in Southern California, who between the 2 of them in the last few years have had 8 of their friends die from overdoses. 8. 8 guys in their 20s. It's crazy.
Yeah, and what's happening down in Southern California is it's just, the overdoses are crazy because of the peer influence of it's okay to take this drug and get this high, and they do it over and over. But what's happening is it's going into heroin. And when they start shooting it up, I mean, these are strong medications that they have no business in putting in your body and regulating and knowing the effects. And so all this peer influence, and your friends are doing it, so they get hooked, and then when you're hooked, it's over. At Doors to Recovery, which is a project of Transforming Youth Recovery, and Doors to Recovery looks at our community here in Reno, and it looks at the gaps as far as what's needed in this community, and we're having a lot of fun actually. Building programs, getting involved. We helped start a youth offender court. We bought...
it's so important.
Right?
That's
and
a huge
so
deal.
we bought a Josh Montoya house for 18 to 25-year-olds, and then a Jane Aubrey house, who Jane Aubrey passed in March of 2015 of a drug overdose. So we have a Jane Aubrey house that will be opening up this year. And my hopes is the third year we will have an Ed McCaffrey home.
Oh.
Would you?
I would. That would be so cool. That would be so cool.
Ed would have a house with his name on it, and it would be for young men, 18 to 25 years old.
That's when they need it the most.
Yeah, we want that to be our third house.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Yes, we're getting ready to announce tonight at the State Department of Education.
Cool.
So exciting! It's a $1 million grant per year that will run for 13 years, and
that's huge.
Isn't that great? I mean, for Reno, and it'll be a program that we're hoping will model nationally. Thank you for coming today and sharing your story and hoping to change, the path for some parent or some child in our community, so this doesn't happen to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Nobody wants this to happen to them.
Right.
Nobody does.
So
it's really horrific.
I was just talking to Janine Whistler about Washoe County School District, and we have Lisa Ruggiero here today with us, who is on the board of Washoe County School District. Thanks for coming, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we have an exciting announcement that we're going to be rolling out for Washoe County School District, and you've been a big part of that.
Stacie, it's been an honor to be a big part of it, and it's been an honor to work with you. The work that you're doing in the community and the impact that you're having on the Washoe County School District and our children is life-changing. And there really are no words to describe how grateful we are and how much hope we have for making change and providing those necessary supports for our kids so they can get across that graduation stage.
Right, because it really is all about the kids, and we just, we want to wrap our arms around them and provide a solid program, and this is an opportunity with a grant that will be consecutive 13 years and be measured and thought out very carefully. And I just want to say thank you for allowing Transforming Youth Recovery to come in and be a part of a prevention and intervention program with our community. I really am excited for that.
Well, we are excited too, and I have to say, Stacie, one word I would use to describe you is you're a force to be reckoned with, because your passion and your commitment to making a difference with Washoe's kids is indescribable. And what you're doing is providing these arms that wrap around our kids, but you're really focusing on the positive and those protective factors. And you also have this great understanding of the risk factors that many of our kids face that can interfere with daily learning. So as you talked about with your earlier interview, no parent expects to lose a child. Mm-hmm. And I think with the work that you're doing, we're going to save many lives. And as a school board trustee, if I can accomplish that in working with a fantastic community partner, then I've done my job. So the work that you're doing is so meaningful and will have such a long-term impact on our kids, because it's very interesting, your passion and understanding of the research. And when we work with community partners, that's very exciting for us, because every program we want to put in place, we want to make sure that we're collecting data, that it's data-driven, and that's exactly what you're doing with Transforming Youth Recovery and Doors to Recovery. So we are so grateful for that.
Thank you. And I do want to say it is going to take a community to be behind this and involved with it and a part of it. And I just compel the community to come in and join us with this effort, and I appreciate any help that we can have at Doors to Recovery and Transforming Youth Recovery. I was talking with Lisa Ruggiero, trustee of the Washoe County School District earlier, and we also have Frank Savaggio here. He is the Executive Director of Options for the Washoe County School District. What benefit do you think the magnitude of this grant could really bring to the Washoe County School District?
Yeah, let me just tell you briefly, as a parent of somebody that struggled with drug addiction for many years, my son, who ended up incarcerated and has had to overcome many struggles as a result of it. And this is somebody that was promising quarterback of his football team, and the drugs took over his life. That this grant and the possibility to serve kids is really tremendous. So first I want to say thank you for that. I think the biggest thing is, because it's 13 years, we don't have programs coming in and out of the system. Mm-hmm. And so it brings a sense of stability that will be very important for sustainability in the school district. So we're really excited about the opportunity, and do believe from elementary through high school we have an opportunity to make a difference in preventative measures, but also those that begin to struggle with drug use have an opportunity to receive some help to make their lives better.
Transforming Youth Recovery will have a steering committee, mm-hmm. and the steering committee will work closely with the district to implement the programming, make sure that right. the programming is as outlined in the beginning, could potentially fluctuate depending on outcomes and needs that the school district has. And so we appreciate the fact that you've allowed the steering committee to be very actively involved with helping this grant, assist the school district.
Yeah, and the same return. I mean, for you being willing to mm-hmm. Allow yourself to come in and help support something like this is pretty tremendous, and we're all really grateful in the school district for it.
Well, thank you very much, Frank, and we look forward to working with you and all the kids with Washoe County School District and the entire administration. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Chris Hart, who is here with me today, has done all of the research for Transforming Youth Recovery, and I would love to introduce you to him and get a little history of how he's been involved. So Chris, thanks for coming today.
It's my pleasure, always.
And so you and I met, I would say, 4 years ago.
I think that's right.
And it's really at the very inception and the very first idea of rolling out a program for collegiate sobriety. And you had done a mapping study for USC, which was extremely impressive. And from there, we looked at doing a national research study about collegiate sobriety and what's working, what's not working, and you developed quite a research project from that.
Yeah, it's this you'll remember, and it's really been an honor to be a part of this over the years, development of Transforming Youth Recovery into the projects that are Doors to Recovery right now. One of the things that was really interesting about that particular project at the time period is we were looking at the way in which to dramatically expand the landscape for collegiate recovery programs, which went from the time period of being about 30 or so that were on college campuses through the funding of Transforming Youth Recovery to now upwards of 165 now that exist across the United States. But what I thought was the most important component of that is it really began to lay the foundation for the approach that Transforming Youth Recovery was going to take in all areas in which it was looking to have an influence. It so started to be, a starting point of collegiate recovery, but as you know, your passion and your vision for Transforming Youth Recovery was to expand really through the full spectrum of where youth development happens, and in particular, the care that's necessary for their health and overall well-being, with a particular focus on protecting against substance misuse or substance abuse. So I thought that foundational piece, this idea of really taking an asset-based approach to things, and a lot of the terminology that you'll hear a lot, right, that we use is this idea of capacity building.
Right.
It's how do you empower groups of people and communities really to find the ways in which to help members within their communities or within their schools really be well. Live the life that they're supposed to live. And that takes everybody. It takes educators, it takes parents, it takes community collaborators. And I thought that was the real exciting sort of moment of discovery. Yes, we were able to contribute to a useful asset framework that's been used at universities and colleges across the United States, but this idea of transforming youth recovery, really trying to help communities build the capacity for caring for people, for having that thriving well-being that we look for, that was really exciting.
Right, right. And so you basically have used that same framework with several research studies that you've done for transforming youth recovery. And you actually did sit down with us in the very beginning and help us frame the initiatives, which was higher education, community college, K through 12. We also looked at recovery high schools, which we did. You did a phenomenal job on.
Right.
And then our fifth initiative is the family and life skills, which will be exciting, but we won't roll out until about 2017 or 18. But right now we're working on K through 12. And so.
And this has been an exciting development. If we look at this idea of really trying to understand what are those things within communities and areas that really can help develop in certain ways. So one of the key things that we end up doing a lot of, and you've been involved with this directly, is this idea of asset mapping, right? It's this idea of sort of going out into areas and having conversations. And part of it is about how can we collect the data that we need in order to understand the types of services or gaps that we might have. But really the intent is to have conversations. The intent is to do what we're doing right here on this couch, which is to say, here's my passion, here's what I'm trying to do. I know you have certain gifts and talents. Is how can we collaborate together and do this? And I think you remember this, but when we first started doing some asset mapping here in Reno, which is about a year ago that we were sitting here, we had the privilege of going and sitting down with the professionals at the Washoe County School District.
Right.
And they were telling us about the efforts that they're making, which really are remarkable in terms of the types of programs and services that they have for prevention and intervention. But at one point during that conversation, they said, but our biggest challenge is that things keep coming and going.
Right.
That the funding for us to do this in the right way and to do it in a way which will really protect our students and by extension the families it's really challenging, and we're constantly having to restart because after so many years we end this grant or this program and then we have to go into something else. And I remember walking away from that and you saying that I wonder what would happen if we were able to provide some of that stability and that consistency. And that's what really started the conversation about the protective factors and the preventive programs that we're looking for here in through Washoe County School District in terms of these prevention and intervention services.
Right. And so when you performed the K through 12 national study, you really looked at overall what the history and current landscape is on prevention and intervention programs in schools, public school system. And so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I think there's two really interesting things that sort of came through as we initiated this overall study, and as you know, it's a study which will be continual, as we sort of look at more of the implementation side. But I think overall, one of the things that we know that is critically important is that we approach this a little bit from a public health perspective. And when we think about that, we know that the first and real anchor of this is about ensuring prevention, that we have school systems and the programs that can help with the overall health and well-being and learning in social and physical environments. And that prevention requires the use of well-known, effective or evidence-based sort of programs. There is, however, an enormous challenge that is out there to try to identify and find those programs. We have national directories, we have registries where all these programs exist, and you can go through and you can search them. What was interesting to us as we began this process was we could find close to 200 programs for alcohol and other drug prevention. But when it came down to really looking at those programs and their evaluation, we only could find a much smaller number, about 17, that were commonly evaluated by more than one group or body that's set up to do the evaluation. So that's one component. One component is really being able to give schools and the professionals that are working there the ability to find those evidence-based programs and then implement them with fidelity as we go through. So that's sort of a critical part of what we've been looking at. The second thing that really struck us as we were looking at this is there is an incredible amount of information about the science behind prevention. And professionals within the district are well versed in this. But where we see a gap is really in understanding its translation. It's understanding on the ground, how does this really work in the real world? So how do you build partnerships and how do you put together coalitions that are beyond the schools? Because schools play a critical role, but they can't do it themselves. They need the full community and the parents, to sort of get involved. And so, but how does that happen? And that's what I think is really exciting about this. This is what Transforming Youth Recovery and Doors to Recovery really wants to understand is what is that process? How do things assemble and come together? How are relationships made? And that's what we feel we can disseminate then out to the broader communities around us in the United States.
Can you just touch on Capacitype and give us a little summary of Capacitype, which you have really developed for Transforming Youth Recovery?
The development of the application was created originally to support the research activities behind the asset studies, but has also evolved into something that can be used by communities, by parents, by schools, in order to really identify and find those resources and services that can be applied.
Stacie, I'm honored to share your work with our community. What is it that you want people to know about what you're up to?
Well, you know, I want to make sure that it's not about me and it's not about one person in general. It's about our community and it's about our kids. And I did mention earlier that it does take a community, and I was hoping to compel the community to come in and join us in our efforts and make a difference. Doors to Recovery, Transforming Youth Recovery, we're here to stay. We are going to be in this community developing models to be shown on a national basis, and we all at Transforming Youth Recovery would like to have the community involved.
You can join Stacie in her efforts by contacting Transforming Youth Recovery at transformingyouthrecovery.org or doorstorecovery.org. That's Stacie Mathewson. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
For more information on this guest or to see this show in its entirety, visit nvbusinesschronicles.com. While you're there, you can watch all of our past shows on the Chronicles page and stay connected with us by following us on our social media. For information on becoming a guest on our show, contact us at info@nvbusinesschronicles.com. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. Tune in next week at the same time for more from Nevada Business Chronicles.